What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video a part. I'm so excited to upload this one for you guys because Disney Plus has uploaded the 11th episode of the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. And today we're taking a look at episode 11, Shattered. So episode 11 is part 3 of a 4-part series finale for Star Wars The Clone Wars. And it looks like this episode picks up right where we left off from last week's episode, where it looks like Maul has been captured and the siege of Mandalore has finally ended. But just before the Republic decides to leave Mandalore to escort Maul to the Republic on Coruscant, we see a scene from Revenge of the Sith, but it's told from Ahsoka's perspective, where we see Master Windu, Yoda, Aayla Secura, and Master Ki-Adi-Mundi all talking about removing the Chancellor from office. Now in Revenge of the Sith, the scene ends when Yoda says the line, "Great care we must take." But in this episode, this council meeting scene is extended, and just after Yoda finishes that line, we see Ahsoka take part in this council meeting where she tells the Jedi Masters that she's on her way to Coruscant to hand Maul over to the Republic. However, what she did not mention was how Maul knows about Sidious and his Grand Master plan. I guess Ahsoka decided to keep that little secret to herself, but little does she know, that little secret could have prepared the Jedi for what's coming. So as this episode goes on, this one in particular keeps showing us small, subtle scenes of just clones scattered throughout the starship Ahsoka is currently on. And this episode even has a small little moment where we see Ahsoka and Rex talk about how this war has changed both of them. For Ahsoka, as a Jedi, she was trained to be a keeper of the peace. But ever since she was a Padawan, all she's ever been throughout this whole war was a soldier. For Rex, he was bred to be a soldier, but he knows people who wish the war had never happened. But without the war, the clones wouldn't even exist. And as this small little conversation comes to an end, Ahsoka looks at Rex and says, "The Republic couldn't have asked for better soldiers, nor I a better friend." I'm sorry, but this episode made me feel sick to my stomach, and I'm pretty sure you all felt it too, because after Ahsoka and Rex had their little conversation, a clone comes over to Rex and says they're getting a message from the Chancellor. And at that point, my brother and I looked at each other and we were like, no! And once Rex leaves the scene, we see Ahsoka hear voices in her head, and we hear audio directly from Revenge of the Sith, where we hear Palpatine and Windu call to Anakin for help, just before Anakin cuts off Windu's hand, and then Palpatine yells, "Unlimited power!" And as this scene plays out, I was like, oh my god, it's happening. Because after we see Ahsoka freak out once she feels a disturbance in the Force, we cut back to Rex, who is standing in front of a hologram of Darth Sidious, and the only lines you hear in this scene are, "Execute Order 66. And after watching this series for 12 years, after watching the clones fight beside the Jedi for 7 seasons, we finally come to the moment that just breaks our hearts. Because after Rex is told to kill Maul and Ahsoka, Ahsoka runs into the room to tell Rex that, hey, look, something's going on. And at that moment, we see Rex struggle to keep it together as he reaches for his blaster, aims at Ahsoka, and just pulls the trigger. Luckily, Ahsoka acts quick, and in the most tragic / epic moment of this series, we see Ahsoka ignite her 2 lightsabers and defends herself from her own clones as we hear the theme for Order 66 play in the background. And my heart just broke while my brother was devastated as we saw Rex, Jesse, and several clones just open fire on Ahsoka. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, because ever since this show debuted in 2008, we knew that the clones would eventually turn against the Jedi. But my god, this scene just ripped my heart out. Seeing clones like Jesse and Rex, clones who we have known for a long time in this series, aim their blasters at Ahsoka, a character who we grew to love, it's just heartbreaking. So after Ahsoka manages to escape, she goes to Maul and knows that in order for her to uncover the truth, she'll need someone to cause it a distraction. And in this episode, we get to see Maul just wreak havoc on the clones. And for a show on Disney Plus, it gets pretty violent. Anyway, Ahsoka is able to learn about the inhibitor chip, which is a small chip inside the clone head that activates when Order 66 happens. And it's in this moment we get a small little callback to season 6, where in that season we saw an ARC trooper called 5 discover the truth about the inhibitor chips just before he was killed. So with this knowledge, Ahsoka is able to isolate Rex, and after a very cool callback to Rogue One, Ahsoka is able to get the chip out of Rex's head. And just before this episode ends, Rex looks at Ahsoka and says, "Every clone in the Republic army is now hunting Jedi." Honestly, after watching this episode, there were 2 things I really wanted to do. 1, I wanted to make this video for you guys. 2, I really want to watch Revenge of the Sith, because after watching on how this episode plays parallel to that movie, I mean, I just can't wait to see videos on YouTube where we get to see perspective on where everyone was during Order 66. And on that downer of a note, that's going to do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review of the 11th episode of the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. If you like what you saw, click on the subscribe button so you can always updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.